This was last fall, and since this occurred, the agent stopped talking to them. The LLC that flipped the home has left the area and has a registered address to a Subway restaurant somewhere in Alaska. And these disabled vets are left with zero help and repair costs that will cost them 1/3 of what they paid for their home. Welcome to season 3 of the Real Estate Replay. How we've made it this far without anyone in the industry telling us to stop talking, I have no idea. But this season is better than the other two because not only are we sharing buyer and seller experiences, but we're breaking down how all of these companies are making money off of you during the process. Learn what buyers and sellers did wrong, how they were misled by the industry, and how you can avoid all of these red flags to make the best decisions when buying or selling a home. A disabled veteran reached out to me online about their recent home buying experience that has left them with over $80,000 worth of issues in their home. And it's important that we share this story and discuss what went wrong because in some markets, waiving inspections and how they got to this point is still occurring. So last fall, they were moving to Arkansas from out of state, and they reached out to an agent that they knew to get the process started. The agent told them if they wanted to get in a home that they had to waive inspection and not ask for anything. Closing costs, nothing, absolutely nothing. And when I say waive inspection, I don't mean informational only inspection or coordinating inspector to tour the home with you before you make an offer. She legit told them to ask for nothing and to buy the home essentially as is. Interesting enough, the industry people I spoke with last week said offers like that were not common in the market at that point and seemed perplexed why the buyer was advised this. They also mentioned this group does not have the best reputation in the market. It's just word on the street. So these buyers being out of state had to do home tours via video and trusting this agent and their advice. They found a flipped home and made their offer the way the agent suggested, essentially buying the flipped home as is. The agent did not have them do a final walkthrough, even though they were in the area at the time, and told them they couldn't get into the home until after they closed. After closing, the buyer noticed a lot of issues, uneven flooring, a big crack in the ceiling, and many other things. After nagging their agent for what they should do, the agent paid $250 for a home inspection post-closing and then gave them a speech on how important home inspections are. I read the inspection. I'm not an expert, but in this inspection report, it said they have damaged insulation and ductwork under the house, HVAC issues, a crack in the ceiling due to unsupported joists because the flipper removed a load-bearing wall, roof damage, electrical issues, cracked rafters, damaged insulation in the attic, mold, foundation issues, and the new flooring is installed wrong. Their agent sent out a contractor friend to see what it would cost them to repair this stuff, to which the VA buyer received an estimate for $80,000 to $100,000. Keep in mind, they paid $310,000 for this home. This was last fall, and since this occurred, the agent stopped talking to them. The LLC that flipped the home has left the area and has a registered address to a Subway restaurant somewhere in Alaska. And these disabled vets are left with zero help and repair costs that will cost them 1/3 of what they paid for their home. So while this did occur in last year's crazy market, there are still markets now that have buyers that are waiving inspections to compete against each other. So to help me dissect this, I brought my friend, of course, they're from TikTok because that's where I get all my friends from now, is Patrick Brussel, who's with me. And he is an agent in Boston, which is a market that is still seeing buyers waive inspections. So Patrick, thank you for joining me with your nice Boston hat on.
Thank you. That sounds like a movie. Mm-hmm. That's terrible.
Yeah. And to make it worse, they have a 5-year-old child too. So they are disabled veterans. They have a 5-year-old child, and they now have like $100,000 worth of things that need done on their home because of a multitude of reasons. But because I know that you understand this process pretty well, and you've been in the business for a little bit, just 2 minutes about you and how you got into real estate and what it's like right now in Boston.
Graduated from Berklee College of Music in 2007. Well, actually, I walked across the stage. I was like half a credit short. I got the diploma in like 2011.
That's okay. It still counts.
Yeah. So, after like 6 months of cleaning toilets at like a music theater in the area, my mom was like, you need a real job, which I started selling like knives for 2 weeks. And
Were you a
then
Cutco or was it
Cutco,
Okay. Okay.
American made. And then I'd had a real estate license because I got it that previous summer because people were like, oh, you can sell real estate. And I was like, sure, I'll do music and that'll support music. My mom thought that once I got a job in real estate, that was a good enough job. So I started January 15th, 2008. 2 months later, I was able to move out of my mom's house, and I've been doing it ever since.
Right. So you started 2008.
Yeah.
So right at the disastrous level of.
It was amazing. Yeah. And I rented apartments to college kids and subsequently did investment sales too, because you met a lot of landlords and investors renting apartments. So that was like the first 6 years. And then I moved to, I'm at Keller Williams, giant brokerage, and, have been sort of doing the residential thing since 2014. And I've been there since then. And that's the history of it right there in a nutshell.
Yeah.
The current market is in the city itself is a little bit soft. In the suburbs, it's bananas. It's fucking bananas.
Yeah.
I mean, we have, 10 years ago, there was 800% more inventory. If it's a house that's priced under $1 million and it's in, okay condition, and it's not, on top of the cemetery underneath the highway. If it's highway adjacent, it's fine. It's gonna have multiple offers, 5, 10, 20, depending on exactly where it is and exactly the features and the condition of it. So it's really, really absurd still right now. I know it's not like that everywhere, but in the greater Boston area, it really is.
Right. I think that's the hard thing too, because you probably know who I'm talking about. There are certain people on social that talk about this crash and home prices are down 25%, the most in history. And I'm like, where? Like, I'm sure there are local markets that are seeing changes, but it doesn't apply to everybody. And so that's why I wanted to bring you here, because I know that you have clients that have opted to go this strategy to waive the inspection. So I want to know, like, what is the strategy behind waiving the inspection?
Well, it's to me, it's a simple strategy in the sense that when a seller has, 10 feet, all it takes is 2 offers, right? You have multiple offers, 2 offers. One buyer says, hey, I don't need to inspect the house. And the seller knows, well, I was asking 800,000. I have 2 offers for 800,000. This person doesn't want to inspect it. This person does. I don't know what's going to happen, what the inspector says. If they come back and want me to change out a window, it's going to cost me more money. Or maybe they walk away over that one window that's broken, because that happens sometimes. It's easier for the seller to go, hey, we'll take the offer with no inspection. And because the inventory is so low and rent prices have been going up astronomically over the last 4, 5, 6 years, people are, in a sense, they're going, hey, look, I started renting 4 years ago at $3,000 a month. My rent's going to be $4,400 in this September. I don't care. I'll pay $5,000 to live here because I'll start building equity. The house looks okay, and most of our housing stock here is 50, 60, 100, 150 years old. So if it's wrapped in vinyl and the windows aren't, completely falling out, and, it's freshly painted, that seems okay to a lot of people. And, look, I think from my standpoint, this is personally, and look, here's a disclosure.
Yeah.
Not an attorney.
Yeah.
Neither one of us are. If anything sounds like legal advice, you should consult an attorney. And I think
it's just personal opinions.
And you know what? And you probably agree with this too. Consumers should never be afraid to call an attorney.
Mhm.
and ask a question. The worst thing an attorney is going to say is, hey, that's going to take a consultation fee. And if you're buying in our state, the median price is, I don't know, $575, $600.
Wow.
So the attorney's going to charge you $400, $500 an hour for a conversation. Pay that.
Yeah.
Talk with the attorney.
Yeah.
Hey, based on the marketplace and what's happening, we're hearing that this is going to happen. What are our risks? See what the attorney says. Get their opinion on it. Don't listen to me. Listen to the attorney.
Right. Right. Because now that's where this buyer is, because they have nobody. And she said she's called 12 attorneys and one of them finally called her back. I gave her a name. I think it was the person that called. I hope that's the person that called her back. But I have a really good lawyer friend in a different state than me who's pretty well known. And he said he gets calls daily about people questioning if they were fraudulently led into a transaction. And he's like, I can't keep up with it. I cannot keep up with
the transaction.
Yeah. And he's like, I can't keep up with it. So you're right. Like if you aren't sure, and that's part of the reason why I do these conversations and highlight these stories, because I think you question, is this right? Is it not right? Should I be trusting this? And the answer is typically going to be like, if your gut's telling you something's wrong, you should probably trust your gut and get another opinion. And if that's the lawyer, so be it. Please do it.
Totally.
So when people do this, is there any way to protect yourself as a buyer?
When you're waiving an inspection?
Yeah. Are there any loopholes, or like, can you have the inspector come with you when you tour the home? Can you, if you put an as is, or you want an inspection for informational purposes only, does that defeat saying you're buying the home without an inspection?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I think that's what a lot of people try to do. Look, inspections still occur, and there's different flavors to inspections, right? So there is what's the best thing for a seller? No inspection at all. Great. The next best thing for a seller would be, hey, we're going to do an inspection and we're putting down $10,000, $20,000 with the offer. If we walk away or try to renegotiate from anything with the inspection, you get to keep that deposit.
Okay.
I would say, after that, it's going to be, a lower deposit, right? Hey, we put down $1,000, and if we walk away, you can keep that. Then there's the concept of, hey, we want to do an informational only inspection. There's still a deposit down there. And I think what is unclear about these, and most agents aren't crystal clear about it, but they're getting better about it because people are getting burned on this, is the informational only part sounds like, okay, you just want to get information on the house. Cool. But the buyer's thinking, well, if I don't like the information, I get to walk away and I get to keep my deposit. And the seller side is generally thinking, sure, they can have any information that they want. Great. And when they find out they don't like that information, the seller's going, well, wait a minute, why you don't get to walk away?
Right.
You got your information, we're going to close. So that's been tricky. And I think in general, what those buyers should be saying and their agents should be saying is, look, we want an inspection and we're either going to take this or we're going to leave it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, fine, great. That's an inspection. I personally would rather see the buyer say, look, we want an inspection. We like your house. We're willing to take on, we know it's not perfect. No house is ever going to be, even new construction. We're willing to take on $10,000, $15,000, unless any one single item is going to cost more than that, something of that nature. As a listing agent, I'd rather see that than just a take it or leave it thing, because you never know when the buyer gets pointed out, hey, by the way, the front stairs are, uneven. It's a tripping hazard. And, there's 3 stairs that have been like that since 1973. And, all of a sudden they're going, oh, yeah. So, and still they could run away from that anyways. I think contractually they're, if they really wanted to, they could get out of it. And they could really get out of it with any inspection, I think, is the issue here. And then, below that, it's just anything below that is just an inspection, right? I did one this morning with a buyer. The house was a total piece of shit. You could see it from the window sills on the outside were all just wood that was rotted. Like you could poke fingers in it, like birds could nest in it. The agent knew it. It was being sold as is. So the offer was essentially, look, we just want to make sure this is as bad as we think it is.
I don't have to demo this whole thing as a surprise.
Yeah. It was actually better than we thought. We're going to move forward with it.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. But the problem is, even with those offers where you say, look, here's our $5,000, $10,000. We want to inspect it. We think it's great. You can keep that. If we don't like it, you probably have to be the best offer monetarily and still have the best terms other than the other offers who are waiving it completely.
And have the money to be able to back up what you're saying and not get yourself in a hole. So you feel bad. We talk about housing affordability and it's like, well, shoot, like if you're barely scraping by to able to get your down payment, right? And you're barely able to get in the door. Now you're just getting blown out the door from people that are like, oh, I've got 20 grand extra. Like, I'm cool if I need to do a new roof. Don't worry about it. And so it causes, and it's not, that's how it is right now, but it just adds fuel to the fire of housing affordability and access to affordable homes, which is frustrating.
One thing that people are starting to do is, the home comes to market on Tuesday, offers are due the following Tuesday. If they can, they see it immediately, Wednesday, Thursday. If they like it, they will get permission from the listing agent and the seller to bring an inspector over the weekend before making an offer. And it's not necessarily a full inspection. They're not necessarily testing every outlet, opening every window, but they're in the basement. They're looking at the main electrical panel and the structure. They're going in the attic. They're looking at the outside. And so they're seeing the meat and potatoes of the house. Yeah. Are you going to find 3 windows that don't operate and there's a couple electric outlets that, weren't grounded the right way? Yep. But in the look, every property is going to have work that has to be done anyways. You're never going to find a property that, the inspector says, this is a perfect home. And they never say that anyways, because they're just great. They're literally just saying, hey, this is what I saw here. It's not past sale. This is the condition of the house.
Well, they're literally hired to tell you everything that's wrong with your home. Even the nitty gritty stuff, like that's what you hire them.
And they don't say, hey, that was that passed or that failed. It could be the worst home they saw and the buyer still goes, great, I'll buy it. It's just a matter of what's the value of that. So, the problem with that approach is even if those inspections are half off, right? You don't know that you're going to get the house. So how many times are you going to do that?
Yeah, do you have the money to afford to do that too?
Yeah, even if you spend $1,500, $2,000 to lose out on 6 homes.
We're already having an affordability issue. And now you have people that have the ability to waive stuff and not have it put them in a position like this buyer's in right now, where they can't afford to make these changes. They bought at the top of their price range because this agent told them this was an amazing home and they should take it.
I think what's interesting about that story, and I know we're kind of going to get to this, but the issue is the language that the agents use, right? Because it's one thing for me to say, hey, Wendy, you can totally have an inspection in your offer. Completely, you're right as a buyer. It's my professional opinion that it's unlikely the seller is going to accept an offer with an inspection contingency based on the interest in the house and the market conditions. We can put one in, no problem. That's completely different than saying, Wendy, you can't have an inspection and buy a house.
Or ask for anything.
Yeah, those are 2 different things. That's taking away the choice from the consumer.
Right. And it was done over the phone. So, conveniently, it's like when a lawyer wants to talk to you, but they just want to talk to you on the phone. I'm like, oh, what are we going to talk about?
Yeah. You could make the type of offer where, if the home is 800,000 and, people are offering 900, but you say, hey, I'll offer 950. I just want an inspection. The seller might say, yeah, come do an inspection. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's, the seller might accept it. It still might be unlikely, but maybe that offer would be accepted. So agents that talk in absolutes, that's where they shoot themselves in the foot.
Right. And so she had her sign. I sent it to you. This addendum. I don't live in this state, and you and I are not lawyers, but she had them sign option C, which basically said she waives all rights of an inspection and reinspection, and it basically takes the property as is, right? And then it goes.
And it says, by the way, your agent told you could have any inspector you wanted.
Oh, yes.
You had the opportunity to inspect it, and you had anyone that you wanted to inspect it. And
yeah, section 5. I love how they also say that you could choose any inspector listed in the yellow pages. Like, how old is this addendum? Good Lord. No one uses the yellow pages anymore. But you're right. It says the buyer acknowledges the agents involved in this transaction have made them aware that inspectors who provide this service regularly are available. So basically, this agent told them this is what you need to do, and then made them sign a paper saying the agent told them inspections are great. You should probably use one. You have access to one, and they're not responsible for anything that happens to you. It also said the buyer has had an opportunity to inspect, review, and visit the property, which they didn't. Which we can get to that in a second.
We'll say
so there's a lot of details in here, and I think when they were presented with this, again, I've talked about this before. We present contracts to people. You look at like the MV Realty, who was conning people into giving them money and putting a lien on their home.
Yep.
Even lawyers said this was a 10-page legalese dense contract. Yet people, us in the U.S., average have a middle school reading fluency level. So I still battle with, we present these contracts in front of people who likely can't digest them, right? It's filled with so many extra words purposely to just make it sound confusing that they maybe even start to read it and they're like, I don't understand this. I trust my agent, and they sign it.
Yeah, and the agent who's not an attorney who's right there with them on terms of reading level.
Right. And it's funny too, because somebody said, we were talking about buyer agency agreements, right? And I said, there was a buyer that came up to me and said the agreement was basically tucked in with their offer letter, and they were pushing out an offer real fast. Oh. And this agent talked about commission and how they expect to get 3%. And the buyer was like, okay, where does that come from? And she said, don't worry, the seller pays for it. Don't worry about it. She never mentioned the terms, like everything in that agency agreement. The only thing she mentioned was commission. So they didn't get that house accepted. And so when the buyer went back through, because they were rushed to put an offer in, this contract was for 6 months, which she never mentioned. And then he also said, hey, I noticed the homes we're looking at are only offering 2.5. What happens? Because this says you want 3. And she said, well, yeah, you'd have to make up the difference. And I'm like, that's very different than when you had them sign it saying, don't worry about it, the seller pays. And so there's so much in these contracts. I just want to start some kind of like legal nonprofit that you can send your contract to, and someone can be like, here's what you're signing. Because that
consumer should, and
terminate.
Start with the broker of record for that agent. And if that gets nowhere, I would go to the real estate board for the state.
Yeah.
And file an ethics complaint. And I would start with the broker of record and say, look, this is what happened. Like, I want out of this contract. Do you want me to start just writing negative reviews every single day, or can I get a contract? And if that doesn't work, I would go to the real estate board. Period.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, of all the tools and resources that we have to hold someone accountable, the fastest, quickest one is to write a bad review. I swear. I mean, it's just my personal opinion. This is no legal advice, but to go through the state and make a complaint is quite a big process. Even to go through the local association is a process. And sometimes, depending on who it is, you might not have any outcome, or you might not have an outcome for a very long time. But a review, everybody can see and can see rather quickly. So if you're really frustrated and you're not getting an answer.
And I'm just surprised that these people try this stuff knowing that, like, I mean, maybe they don't have an online presence. They don't care. I don't know. I'm just surprised in the world that we operate that people, because I assume everyone has an online presence, but not everyone does. Because, how can you do that in this day and age?
It's fascinating. Or the stuff that I'm getting off track, but that's okay. The stuff that I see some real estate agents post on TikTok. I'm like, why would you say that? There's one, who's the one that said, people probably would be more normal if we brought back bullying. She was a realtor. I forget, Texas somewhere. I don't remember. And she had like this whole account talking about how we should just bully people and like very anti certain demographics and certain groups. And I'm like, like, first of all, like, you're a crappy person, but B, like, you have just tied all of that to your business, like everything to your business, to all of your content. It's baffling.
It might be good for their business, I suppose. It's against, it's definitely against some like probably fair housing stuff there, but like in their little niche, it might be good for their fucking business.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because I'm like, I'm sure where she worked, she is now inactive, but I'm sure where she worked, she couldn't have been the only one that thought that, because she was pretty vocal about her opinions on that stuff. And I kind of think sometimes birds of a feather flock together, or tolerate that, or anyways. See, I'm off track. Damn it. I told you this is going to happen. I told you. I can't keep myself on track together. All right. So I'm going to go back to this addendum. The thing here is like, if you don't know what you're reading, and we talked about this before, take it to a lawyer. If you're not sure, please take it to a lawyer.
Even before the lawyer, you really should be saying to your agent, hey, look, why C and why not the other ones? Can you explain C? Can you explain why not A? What's the deal with A? What's the deal with B? What's the deal with D? By the way, agent, talk to me about what this page is, that I'm giving up here. And
right.
You're telling me that I have to do this. Can you explain why I have to do this? Because the agent should have a reasoning behind that. And because, again, this comes back to, and consumers need to understand that they should have choice. And sometimes the choice is, look, you can have an inspection and you can't have the house. Like, here's your offer with an inspection and you don't get the house. That might be the choice that you as a consumer want to make. And the other choice might be, here's your offer that doesn't have an inspection. Great, they accepted it. In a nutshell. But the agent should be able to explain, look, here's what's happening in the marketplace. Here's the data around it. Here's the experiences that we've had. By the way, would you like to talk to these past 3 clients of mine that have like pushed back?
Yeah.
Make the agent explain. And if the agent's unwilling to do that and just says, this is standard, or we always do that, that's when, again, red flag.
Red flag.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. I had someone tell me the other day, they were an agent, and they're like, we're not lawyers. You can't expect us to walk you through these contracts. And I'm like, wait a minute. If you're asking me to sign it and you can't explain it to me, like, I should not be working with you. Because if I don't get it, I'm trusting you to explain it to me.
To a degree, I'm okay with that, in the sense that the second page says, this is a legally binding addendum when signed by parties below. Read it carefully. You may employ an attorney to draft this form for you. If you do not understand the effects of any part, consult your attorney. Okay, so that agent says, hey, you can't expect us to do that. Hey, by the way, client, read what it says here about an attorney. The agent should be then pointing that out and giving them options for an attorney. I think consumer standpoint and a marketplace standpoint, as an agent, if you're unwilling to walk them through the contract and you haven't done, if you as an agent haven't gone through the form with an attorney a couple times and your broker a couple times to be able to at least explain the basics of it. Now, sure, are you going to get questions from someone at some point where you go, you know what, I don't know the answer to that. You really should talk to an attorney about that. Yes, of course you're going to get those. But should you be able to walk through from a, I think so, because otherwise there's going to be another agent that's going to be able to say, hey, look, I can explain this contract to you. Doesn't mean you're going to be able to answer every question that they have in detail about every single, what if scenario that comes up. That's my opinion on it.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of walkthroughs, why wouldn't this person have a walkthrough before they closed? This buyer said it was never mentioned. Yeah, it was never mentioned. It was never brought up. And their agent was actually going to be out of the country. So their lender came to closing instead of their agent. So the only time they ever saw the home, because they were coming from out of state and was doing video tours with their agent, was when they were allowed to put a few things in the garage. That's the only time they saw their home. Other than that, they were told they shouldn't be at the home until after closing. So, which is bizarre to me.
Every real estate's local. So yeah. I don't know what the practices are and what the legalities are in Arkansas. I know that here in Massachusetts, it is fairly typical that a buyer would be allowed up to 3 visits between the purchase and sale agreement, which is a secondary contract here, and the closing. One of those might be the appraisal, even though they might not be present for that. That is a buyer visit because the buyer is getting the appraisal via their lender. So that's typical here. There's nothing standard. They could, both parties could, the seller has 5 kids and, they could say, look, we can't have visits. Like, fine, you have the appraiser come in, but you can't come for measuring. It's just not going to happen. Okay, fine. But that's fairly typical to have that stuff in there. A final walkthrough, if both parties agree contractually, like, hey, we're not going to have that. If the buyer just says, I don't care, that would really be the only reason.
Right.
Because that's the only time you get to see the home and make sure, am I getting, and look, they waived the inspection. So they're taking it in the same condition as they saw it on the video tour, I suppose. You get to verify it was in the same condition as the video tour, I guess.
Yeah. I just wonder, man, if they would have had that, but we talked about this, if they would have had the walkthrough, would they have noticed the flooring installed wrong and it's uneven that they now trip over? Would they notice the big crack in the ceiling? But then again, what would they have done? You would lose whatever you put down because you'd have to pause the whole thing, right?
Here in Massachusetts, and here's a legal thing that I shouldn't be talking about, but I will. So if someone shows up to a closing, a buyer, and chooses not to sign, both parties have to sign a deposit release form. So the buyer could go, I ain't signing that. The deposit sits in escrow. And sure, I don't think contractually they have any right to it. But then the seller has to essentially go and litigate against it. So the buyer might be able to get them to release some of the funds to them rather than go and pay a litigator to go and get it. Again, seek attorney advice on that. I'm not sure how it really play out. I don't know who you could, get on your side to make that case, but maybe.
Oh, what was the other thing she told me? Oh, so the home was listed at $299. She advised them to do $305 and waive everything and don't ask for everything. And then when the buyer said, what about the appraisal? Like, we're at the top of our budget. What happens? And this agent said, don't worry. The VA appraisal always comes in higher than what the offer's for. I'm like, well, I don't think that's okay. And she's like, yeah, that's literally what she told me. Sure enough, the appraisal came in at $310. So apparently in that situation, she was right, but that sounds fishy to me
You can't
have something.
appraiser ever comes into any number.
Yeah. Yeah.
50,000 above, 20,000 below. The appraiser is going to appraise it for what they appraise it for.
Hmm.
The appraiser could have appraised it for 275.
Yeah. She's like, she told them, don't worry about it. They always appraise more than what the offer is or what it was listed for. I forget what she said specifically.
It doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, oh man.
That's yeah. I mean, that's the terrible, terrible counsel. And again, when the agent says you got to waive everything, and you have to make the offer of this, the first question a consumer should be asking is, okay, why? And the agent should be able to say, here's the data, here's why. Here's this house, this house, this house. This is what it was priced at. This is what it's like. Here's the differences between this one. I mean, that's pretty simple stuff.
Right. Right. I think you can't.
Here's the differences.
Instead of blindly trusting what you're told, and this is a buyer beware state. So they're just, I don't know. I don't know how we, I went a little bit just out of curiosity.
Liability on the consumer here for not pushing, unfortunately.
Right. And I think that's part of the problem is we assume that who we get as a service provider, that everyone is created equal. The marketing tells us it is, right? Trust a realtor, blah, blah, blah. And I know you can't speak to that. But everything tells us we have these ethics and morals and values and trust us. But that's not the case. There's 1.6 million of you and half of you. So 860,000 have sold 12 or fewer homes.
Back from real estate, right? Like, I think people at this point are questioning, can I trust my doctor? Can I trust my priest? Yeah.
Can I trust who's representing me in government? All that stuff. I feel like it's, yeah. And I guess to a degree we should, be questioning people. But to blindly trust what someone's advising you to do, especially when they have they don't get paid, right? They don't get paid unless you close.
You should always, if your realtor, if your doctor, if your whatever says, hey, this is what we're going to do. Sounds good, doc. Why are we doing that?
Mm-hmm.
It's good, Patrick. Why are we doing it? And
right.
If they, because this is standard, if the doc says, hey, we're going to take off your leg. And they say, well, it's standard. Well, you hit 41 next year. We take off your left leg every time. And their answer is, this is standard. Wouldn't you get another opinion?
Well, I'd be screwed because I'm hitting 41 next month. So I'm in trouble.
I think, if your realtor is going, you got to pay $15,000 more and waive everything because this is standard, people should be going, okay, wait a minute.
Yep. How do you know that? Show me the offers and show me the data. Well, they can't show me the offers, but where's the data?
We'll get another opinion.
Right.
I don't care what contract you signed. Call someone.
Right. And please, for the love of God, interview more than one real estate agent.
Yeah.
I even saw something the other day. It claims Zillow had some kind of report out that 72% of home buyers do not shop their rate. I find that really hard to believe. And if that's the case, we are all very stupid that you don't access and see what is out there for you, because there are different providers, there are different loan types.
I think people are so from here's a perspective on that. So John gets a pre-approval in February, right? So they run his credit, which, by the way, what does that ding you? 3-4 points?
Yeah.
Starts the home buying process, and John gets an offer accepted in June, potentially. John then doesn't want to go and shop rates then because, he got his credit pulled once. And it's like, dude, shop rates for a couple of weeks, for 5 days then. Sure. You're going to get your credit pulled a couple times then, but it's only going to ding you once then again in June, unless you were right on the line between, some level there. Yeah. So I think that is part of the psychology of it. But yeah, and one of the other issues is timing of it, at least in our market, where you see the home Tuesday, the offer, home comes to market Tuesday. You see it Saturday. Offers are due Monday. You're not sure if you're even going to get this home because God knows what's going to happen. Okay, you got it accepted on Wednesday, and essentially you're signing a P&S by the following Wednesday. Like there's just not enough time necessary.
Right. Yeah. I'm such a big advocate of you should meet a lender way before you start into the home buying process, and more than one, right? For a multitude of reasons, like get a really good idea of what you can actually afford, and then get an idea of what you can afford when rates change so that hey, rates went up a whole percentage point. That's going to drop me down to this much that I can afford. Or, hey, rates went down. So now I'm able to bump myself up a little bit. But even to know your credit score, or to know I'm thinking about buying in the next year, where am I hurting? Do I have too much debt? Do I need to bump up my credit score? What can I do to get myself there? Because it only benefits you in the long run. Exactly. There's just not that financial education piece that we push, and it's frustrating because I feel like you could save a lot of money if you were just more proactive about it.
We're on our third property. We've held all three. And it's funny, each time we've signed on one, it's like, okay, we need to get pre-approved again the moment we signed. And again, so we're like a year and 4 months into this third one. And we just this week had an opportunity on another one. And I'm going, fuck, we're not pre-approved. Mm-hmm. I know it's not going to be an issue to get it. And I'm thinking to myself, it's going to take a day to like gather everything. And so like, I'm just thinking to myself, like, fuck, I should already have had that. Like, so yeah, I think the second people even like close, they should just go through the process again, have it updated, see where it is. Mm-hmm. You just know what life's going to throw at you. And the best thing is to keep checked in on where you are financially.
Right. Just keep it in a little folder. All that stuff you need, just even before you get started, collect all that stuff, just keep it in a folder. And then you just always have it wherever to quickly take a move on. You look at, oh, damn it, we're off track again. Let's go back to their experience of buying a home via video tours. What should you be? And this is hard because I feel like if you don't know the area, you are putting all your trust into your real estate agent.
I really try not to do that. My first question to people is, when are you going to be here? Like even clients that are coming from, like I've one group that is they're investors from England. One of them will fly over. They'll be here for about, like the first time he was here for 2 days. We saw the first day he was here, 24 properties.
Whoa!
Because it was first time here. They were buying investment property. It was just like, let's see stuff. Right. And I knew I just needed to get him used to what does his in this budget range get in different areas. And so there's no way a video tour, if they're already familiar with the city because they went to college there 10 years ago, or, they have a brother that lives there, then
they were moving back. So they were moving back home. And what's interesting is the person they used helped them sell their home when they moved away. So there was already this, like, it's so bizarre. It's so bizarre.
They work in Arkansas and...
No, so they lived in Arkansas. They moved out of state. When they moved out of state, they sold their home. I'm assuming they're military, so maybe they're transferred. And when they came back, they just contacted that same person. But now she's questioning, like, shoot, like, was I misled when I sold my home? Like, now you question everything. And she said, even looking back, she did a video tour of a home, and the agent kept calling it this polished penny, and it's amazing, and all this stuff. And then it turned out there was a crap ton of things wrong with it.
Just
And
the
she's
phrase like
like,
polished penny is fucking weird.
yeah. Well, at first I was like, does that mean it's like really nice but cheap? Or does that just mean like it's old but looking good? I don't know. I have no idea. So looking back, she sees these red flags and things she should have questioned. But again, like when you don't trust your gut, it only gets worse, right? If you lose trust with the person you're working with, you're probably not going to get that back, and you will second guess everything that they tell you moving forward, which is miserable for everybody, right?
Right. If you're really have to do video tours, I mean, one, you have to you as a consumer have to understand that first of all, there should be a disclosure that says, hey, look, you're buying this sight unseen. Doesn't matter what video tour there is, you didn't see this thing. Right. And there's going to be things about that property which you're going to get in and see that, hey, it was slightly different than what you saw. So
right. It smells really bad in here.
There's that too. Or like, hey, I didn't even notice the smell because my senses are so and even physical appearance. I just think that there's going to be things that, the camera, the lighting, oh wow, that blue is like, it's kind of like purplish, like wow, weird, like because the camera the lighting was different that day and the way it showed up on the camera versus how it was in person. So that kind of stuff is just going to happen. So you sort of have to, and your agent should be talking with you about that too.
Right.
So really, I think those have to be extreme circumstances when you're buying stuff via video. I would, in this day and age, at least around here, I think an agent is crazy if they don't have a Matterport done, which again doesn't take place of walking through, but it's probably as good. It's probably better than like a cell phone video in the sense that you can stop and stand and do a
turn around. Yeah.
Sometimes the agents complain that they think it distorts the height of, I don't know, but I think you should be looking for that and maybe requesting that. It's a big ask if they don't have one, but hey, there's good, hey, you see the baseboard pulling away a little bit from the wall, which is not a huge, like, in terms of carpentry and fixing that, I mean, could just be a seasonal swelling of the wood or shrinking of it. But hey, that might be a thing when you go and finally see it that you didn't even notice on the camera, and the agent might have not even noticed because, hey, that's kind of normal. So there's going to be disclosures that should be involved with that because there's going to be things that the agent can't possibly see or point out, period.
Right. So then like, it's basically with this whole scenario, it just seems like it's buyer beware because they're left with a legal agreement saying their agent has zero responsibility.
Oh, and I would definitely do an inspection if they're not seeing it in person. And I would have them I would probably have the inspector do the inspection and then FaceTime them in with the inspector to point out, hey, look, here's this thing. By the way, here's this thing. This looked good. Like, there's no way you don't do an inspection.
Yeah, I know. But so again, but looking back on this buyer, I just, I'm not an attorney. I said, usually when you're upset with your agent, you start with who they work for. But apparently who this person works for is not a nice person who's richer than God. Apparently that's verbatim what I was told about this guy, where they live. And so then you have to go to the next level. It could be the local association, the state licensing board.
Up here, the Attorney General's office is great as a resource to call, at least to call and say, hey, this is what's happening. What should I do?
Okay.
I don't know down there if that's the same case.
Yeah, she did. She reached out and they told her she has to submit a form and they'll get back to her in 6 to 8 weeks. And so I'm like, at least you got that far because I have been calling my state attorney general for 2 months now because we have an empty consumer seat on our state boards for real estate. And I'm like, hey, how do you get on there? What do you got to do? What do you have to do? They won't call me back. They won't even answer their phone. So to the PA Attorney General, please answer your phone. If you're listening, you're probably not, but if you are, please answer your phone because nobody does. And it drives me insane.
For it. They have a great candidate in you for it.
They don't want me on there. I don't know. That'd be interesting. That's probably why they don't call me back because they probably know. They've probably seen or heard something. Who knows?
Thank you.
Edit it. Thank you for sharing your insight with me on your ridiculous and crazy market. Yeah. And we'll do another one.
Sounds great.
Think of a topic where you're not sick and I'm not tired.
Have a story or a question you want to share? Hit us up at therealestatereplay.com.